On today's show, Brian Kelly officially being introduced as the new head coach at LSU. Jordy Culotta of the Jordy Culotta Show will join us to break all that down. Mark Stoops staying put at Kentucky. He gets a long-time extension. Anthony Richardson staying put at Florida. We'll discuss that. Some big recruiting news, some transfer portal news, all of that coming your way right now. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start in Baton Rouge as Brian Kelly was introduced as LSU's 34th head coach. The school turned the program over from Ed Ogeron to Brian Kelly. In the release from the school, it noted that Brian Kelly has more victories than any active coach in major college football. He'll receive a 10-year, $95 million contract plus incentives. AD Scott Woodward said Brian Kelly is the epitome of a winner. He has built and sustained success at every program he's led, from multiple undefeated regular seasons, National Coach of the Year honors, college football playoff berths. His credentials speak for themselves. And Brian Kelly said, I could not be more excited to join a program with the commitment to excellence, rich traditions, and unrivaled pride and passion of LSU football. In addition, Kelly is expected to retain several key LSU assistants, including DB's coach Corey Raymond and running backs coach Kevin Falk. That's from On Three's Jerry Hamilton. So, big hire for LSU. We'll see if Brian Kelly can win big in Baton Rouge. Meanwhile, over at Kentucky, Mark Stoops becoming a big name on the coaching carousel. His name came up in several different scenarios. Well, Stoops is getting a contract extension. He's 58-53 in 9 seasons at Kentucky, but his Wildcats this season are 9-3. Stoops had previously called for upgrades to Kentucky's facilities and other resources, and it sounds like the school is going to give that to him as he agrees to a contract extension that will run through June 2028 and continues guaranteed extensions for any season he gets 7 wins. Every time he wins 7 wins, he gets another year tacked on. The agreement takes into account the Wildcats' current season, which already had earned a 1-year extension. But the contract has been agreed upon. The amended terms will be confirmed upon completion of the contract. Stoops said, I'm excited to continue to build this program to national prominence. We're on our way, and I'm more confident in Kentucky football than I've ever been. Meanwhile, over at Auburn, it was not a very fun ending to the season. As we know, they blew the Iron Bowl last weekend, and now they're getting rid of their offensive coordinator. Mike Bobo's tenure as Auburn OC is done after just 1 season. According to On 3 Sports, Bobo will not return. He joined Will Muschamp's staff at South Carolina as offense coordinator in 2020. That ended after a 5-year stint as the head coach at Colorado State. And now 1 year at Auburn, he is out. Auburn ranked 10th in the SEC in total yards per game, 9th in rushing yards, 7th in passing yards, and averaged 29 points per game. That's good for 10th in the conference. Bo Nix could be on the way out. He's talking about possibly transferring, so a little bit of transition already. Welcome to the SEC, Brian Harsin. In the transfer portal news, speaking of the transfer portal, Kentucky Wildcats running back Travis Tisdale out of the state of Georgia. He rushed for 82 yards and 1 touchdown this season. He is entering the transfer portal, so he is on the move. Meanwhile, over at Auburn, senior offensive lineman Tayshawn Manning, he has announced on Twitter he has entered the transfer portal, will play his final year of eligibility at a different school. He shared that decision after reports came out. Senior running back Sean Shivers, junior defensive end Caleb Johnson, and sophomore wide receiver Elijah Cannon all are transferring as well. Shivers ran for 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns during his 4 seasons at Auburn. Cannon made just 6 appearances, registered 7 catches for 126 yards. He had just 4 catches this season. And Johnson, he appeared in just 3 contests this year. All those guys on the move over at Auburn. Meanwhile, over at Ole Miss, a big name on the move, Momo Sanogo, the linebacker. He has put his name into the transfer portal and intends to leave Oxford. He's been with the team since 2017. He played immediately as a freshman that year, playing in 11 games. He produced 112 tackles during the 2018 season for Ole Miss. He appeared in 10 games last year, but his production dipped. And this season, he appeared in every game, but did so more in a limited capacity, producing just 25 tackles this season. He did graduate last year, so he's got the degree out of the way. So we will see where he goes. He had a ton of offers coming out of high school, including from some Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12 schools. So we'll see where Momo Sanogo ends up. We had him on the show at Media Days a couple of years ago, but he will be on the move. Meanwhile, over at Florida, Billy Napier getting some good news. Anthony Richardson committed to having a future at Florida. Before he knew who would succeed Dan Mullen, and Billy Napier is the guy, and Richardson appears to be doubling down on that. Yesterday, Richardson tweeted out a quote that should excite Florida fans. He said, "Scared money don't make money." For those who may not know, that quote was something Billy Napier said earlier this season that became kind of a signature catchphrase in his time at ULL. So it seems like Anthony Richardson is committed to playing for Billy Napier and sticking at Florida to continue his career. Richardson was a redshirt freshman this year, mostly serving as a backup to Emory Jones, but he could get an opportunity to be the starting quarterback moving forward for the Gators. That would be big for them. In recruiting news, Georgia, they added to their top-ranked recruiting class on Monday night, adding New Orleans native Sean Washington. So Warren Easton standout, listed at 6'3", 287 pounds, rated a 3-star, number 69 defensive lineman, number 21 prospect from the state of Louisiana. He committed to LSU in August of 2020, but earlier this year backed off that pledge. He had 18 scholarship offers. A ton of SEC schools were in on him, but Sean Washington heading to Georgia. Texas A&M, their impressive recruiting class continues to get even better. In-state wide receiver Evan Stewart announced his pledge to Jimbo Fisher's Aggies, announcing the news on Instagram. He is a standout from Frisco, Texas, listed at 6 foot tall, 175 pounds, 5-star receiver, the number 1 recruit in the state of Texas, the number 1 wide receiver according to 24/7 Sports, and the number 3 prospect overall nationally. That is a big get for Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. Meanwhile, over in Knoxville, Tennessee, they picked up commitment number 15 for their recruiting class when Atlanta product Christian Harrison announced his pledge to the Josh Heupel Volunteers. Harrison is the son of former NFL standout Rodney Harrison. He picked up 19 scholarship offers during his recruitment. He named Florida and Nebraska in his final 3 along with Tennessee. He's rated a 3-star prospect, the number 99 cornerback overall. Christian Harrison heading to Rocky Top. And there you have it. That is around the conference. When we return, we're going to talk the latest on the Brian Kelly hiring in Baton Rouge with our buddy Jordy Culotta of the Jordy Culotta Show. Thank you guys again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Too early to remind you guys about our friends at Prize Picks. If you're a college football fanatic and you haven't tried Prize Picks yet, you need to go check them out. They're a leader in college sports daily fantasy. They offer more props than anyone in the world. They got any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. They've got all the college games, the NFL games. Look, the college games this weekend, they will have available for you right there on the Prize Picks app. You can download it today. Go to their website, prizepicks.com. And when you sign up, make sure you use our promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON. You can get a great promo that we've got. They will match any deposit up to $100 when you use the Locked On code. It's a 100% instant deposit match. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. Go check them out right now, prizepicks.com, or find them on the App Store. Download it today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Along here, Locked On SEC, and a real pleasure to be joined by this guy, talking all things LSU. Of course, the big news coming out that LSU has made their next football coach hire, Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. Not a name that a lot of people had on the radar, but of the names available, my goodness, what a resume he has. And Jordy Culotta of the Jordy Culotta Show joins us now to talk about it. Jordy, 1 through 10, how surprised were you by the name Brian Kelly when that came out the other day?
12. I was really shocked. Really, I mean, it was a name that people thought was off the board. There were some rumblings early on that some contact had been made, and then Kelly came out and made that comment, Chris, of saying that it's going to take the fairy godmother to drop off $250 million, and he'll have to run that past his wife. I mean, they were just the door always seemed like it was closed. And Scott Woodward, kind of got down to the final hour here. It seemed like he kind of circled back to Kelly and was able to land a humongous fish. I thought it was a great hire. I thought it's exactly what LSU needed at this point, and kind of to bring some stability and to bring some consistency to the program. I think that Brian Kelly has squeezed the entire lemon and all the juice that he could have out of that Notre Dame job, and now finds himself at a real big boy of college football and an opportunity to win championships.
It doesn't matter now because both coaches or both programs made their hires and have their guys in USC with Lincoln Riley and LSU with Brian Kelly. But how serious was the pursuit of Lincoln Riley and LSU? Because, it's funny. We start hearing one day it's like, oh, man, they were hot on his trail. The next day, oh, no, they were never close. They never really discussed things. How close was it with Lincoln Riley and LSU?
Yeah, it's easy for people to say now, right? I don't know if we'll ever know the exact truth, but LSU saying that there was some conversation, some flirtation that was going on, but never really anything serious. I think LSU was going to get on a plane last week and go up to Norman and see if they couldn't talk to Riley about the chance and possibility of taking the spot, but that meeting from the people that I've spoke to never fizzled out. So. I think that they shared a couple of text messages and flirted back and forth, but they never really met up and never had a chance to sit down and talk about the plausibility of even the viability of Lincoln Riley taking the job. I mean, Chris, come to find out, he never wanted the SEC. He never wanted Oklahoma to go into the SEC. He didn't want to be a part of that, that world. So I don't, I think from Lincoln's side, that kind of makes a little sense. And then from LSU side, I don't think that they really ever thought that he was truly on the table.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I keep saying he's going to do the exact same thing at USC that he was doing at Oklahoma. He'll run through a crappy conference and he'll make the playoff and probably get ousted in the first round again, like he was doing at Oklahoma. But back to Brian Kelly. Look, we know the resume. We know what he's been able to do at Notre Dame, and I think more people might be even more surprised by looking at what his win totals have been and how successful he really has been at that program. But I was even more surprised at how good he's done recruiting wise, and to see that, coming into yesterday, he had the number 4 class in the country at Notre Dame. I was a little surprised by that. How's this going to work with Louisiana? Because we know how fertile the recruiting ground is in Louisiana. I mean, is this going to be almost like shooting fish in a barrel for him? Is this going to be way easier to recruit for him at LSU?
You would assume, I mean, I don't know if anybody in your listening audience has been to South Bend, Indiana, but I mean, the fact that he got players to go up there and play football is an incredible feat in itself. I mean, that place is, it's an armpit of not only the Midwest, it feels like the world. I mean, it just is a tough place to recruit to. And, it's got a very, unfertile recruiting base. So I think that, when you look at Louisiana and the amount of players that Louisiana puts out every year and, the staff that he's talking about keeping together, it looks like Falk and Raymond and Mickey Joseph and possibly Brad Davis will have, kind of like first right of refusal here. I think, he's definitely going to set himself up to really do some damage in the state. And I think that his recruiting is going to really take off. I think that that's one thing that's kind of being undersold and underestimated. But when you do look at the numbers, he's consistently recruiting at a high level.
What for the people who are saying, oh, they're not impressed by the hire, because I've seen some people on the message boards and, comments on social media and all that some LSU fans not sold on Brian Kelly. What would you say to those people?
Well, I'd ask legitimately why from a football standpoint. I mean, you look at what he has accomplished at Notre Dame. He's the all-time winningest coach at Notre Dame. He won at Cincinnati before that. He's a guy that's won everywhere he's been. He took over a program that was 6-6, and 3 years later, he's in the national championship. He took Notre Dame to the college football playoff 2 times. he was taking, he was pretty much taking a knife to a gunfight in those games with just his roster compared to some of the teams he went up against. 5 straight 10-win seasons. I think he's a model of consistency. He's a model of being able to build and sustain a program. I think it's exactly what LSU needs right now. And Chris, when I think of kind of the CEO type personnel within football, I really do think, and this is before yesterday, I think Belichick, I think Saban, and I think Brian Kelly, I think they come from that same type of mold where they run their program like a Fortune 500 company. I mean, it's a business. It's, they're looking for the best personnel. They're looking for the cutting edge schemes. They're looking for the best technology, and they're looking to, be efficient in football. And, that's what LSU needs right now. They don't need a character. They don't need somebody that's going to rip their shirt off and want to, jog down the levee. They don't need somebody that's going to, eat grass and wear their hat funky. They need somebody that's going to be invested into the football program. And I think Brian Kelly and LSU kind of meet up at the right place at the right time. It feels like they're a perfect fit for one another right now.
It's a great point because, look, and no disrespect to Ogeron or Les Miles, both those guys were very successful in their own right and won national championships, and no one can ever take that away from them. But there were times an LSU fan base was maybe not embarrassed, but sitting there questioning, going, what are we doing? What are we doing losing this coach? And now we got to go find a new coordinator, or questionable clock decisions late in games with Les Miles and all that. It feels like you're never going to have any of those moments with Brian Kelly where you're going to go, what the hell are we doing?
Much so. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think, those are the things that you clean up immediately. You become very much organized. You become very disciplined. You become very attentive to detail. You become, very task oriented. I think that's what Scott Woodward was placing a premium on in trying to get this hire in. And I think, really and truly Brian Kelly checks just about every box.
Tons of action happening this weekend, including the SEC championship game. And look, if you got a feeling one way or the other on this one, you need to go over to our friends at betonline.ag and check out everything they got you covered all the rest of the year with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is the #1 spot for all your sports action. Head on over, check out their new updated desktop or mobile website. Sign up today, receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. That'll get you your bonus from basketball, football, UFC, or even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage. All the amazing offers they got going for you the rest of the year. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. Get in there now. Also need to remind you about our friends over at Built Bar. Look, this holiday season, you want to grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar or even better than a candy bar, and that's Built Bar. Filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. They got so many flavors, you'll have a hard time choosing. You got the raspberry, the mint brownie, the cherry, the double chocolate, cookies and cream. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel you need to bust down those mall doors and battle all the holiday shoppers this holiday season. It's the season of peace and love. Don't bring up your favorite Built Bar flavor at family parties. People are so passionate about their favorite flavor, they will fight you and things could get out of hand. If you are friends with Santa, well, tell Santa to throw in a couple of Built Bars in your stockings for Christmas morning. If you want to cozy up with something warm, a good holiday secret, dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa. It is delicious. Go to Built.com right now. Use our promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off over at Built.com. Continue our conversation with Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show. Real quick, Jordy, let our listeners know, I know you got the show streaming live on YouTube, but of course available to go back and watch even after you're not live. You can go back and rewatch the show every day. Just tell our listeners a little bit about the show.
Appreciate that, Chris. Yeah, we're on jordyculotta.com is the website. Very easy to find us there. At Culotta Show on all social media platforms, so you can hit us there. And daily we're live 7 to 9 a.m., which is live on Facebook, live on YouTube, Jordy Culotta Show. And we're growing, man. We just signed a deal with a studio. We're going to have more content coming at you, and more blocks of time during the day. But right now you can count on us being there between 7 and 9 every day.
And of course, Jordy talks a lot of LSU, but also talks a good bit of SEC and other things as well. And I'm curious your thoughts, Jordy, big picture right now, the landscape of the SEC. Obviously, it's Saban and Kirby right there at the top, but where does Brian Kelly slot in right now coming into LSU? Where would you put him in the tier of SEC head coaches?
It's a great question, and I think when you look at the conference overall, I mean it's continuously pumping out the most pros. It continuously gets the most recognition on pro days with pro scouts and general managers and head coaches. It's having the most success on the field, and it's got the best coaches. It's got the best facilities. It's paying the coaches the best, and I think Brian Kelly is in that class. He doesn't have the championships. He doesn't have the titles like some of these guys do, like Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. But he does have that cachet with him where he has a reputation of being one of the dominant elite coaches in college football. So, I think that he's in the right place. Like I said, when you match up LSU and Brian Kelly in 2021, it's the perfect match at the perfect time. He's looking to kind of stamp his legacy on his college football resume, and LSU looking to get back to some consistent winning at the top of the mountain. It's a beautiful marriage and a beautiful fit, and I think that Brian Kelly fits in well in the SEC, and he's one of those guys. I think he's one of those guys when you talk about the top coaches in college football. He's a Kirby Smart, he's a Lane Kiffin, he's a Mike Leach, he's a Jimbo Fisher, a Steve Sarkisian, a Sam Pittman, a Nick Saban. He's in that. Nobody's in Saban's class, but he's in that discussion as, one of the best.
I'm curious your thought, Jordy, on the other new guy in the SEC, Billy Napier, coming from Louisiana. Did a great job there in Lafayette, but let's be real. The Sun Belt is a different beast from the SEC. He's going to have to put his big boy pants on and do it rather quickly at Florida. How quickly does he hit the ground running at Florida? Or do you think this is going to take a little time for him to build up the Gators to be where they want to be?
Well, that roster is going to need some time to get hardened up, but I think that Billy Napier is absolutely ready for this moment. We've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times, and really, Chris, I think that he's the 40-year-old edition of Brian Kelly. Kelly's 60 years old. Napier's 40 years old. He's very young in the game. He's very task-oriented. He's very detailed. He is as organized of a human being, much less a football coach, as you will ever find. So, he's told a couple of programs no in some off seasons, and I think this was the off season he was waiting on. LSU was open, Florida was open, and he was going to get a chance at one of those gigs. And when Gainesville came calling, it was his time and opportunity to jump on. I think it's going to be a great fit. I think that the battles between LSU and Florida over the next couple of years are going to be really fun to watch, because Napier, look, he's going to creep into Louisiana and really try to make some splashes. He's got great relationships and on the recruiting grounds of his time at Louisiana. I think the world of Billy Napier. I think he's going to be very successful. And I think it's going to be fun to watch his Florida teams grow.
Last thing before I let you go, Jordy, give me a pick for the SEC championship game. Look, I mean, I've watched both these teams all year long. Bama has their flaws. They've looked human. Offensive and defensive line, not as strong as they traditionally are. Georgia is a behemoth. They're a monster. They're giving up a touchdown a game. I mean, it's unbelievable what their defense is doing. That all said, it still is Nick Saban, and anything could happen. How do you see this one playing out on Saturday?
I think it's a classic. I really do. I think when you look at this defense, and I know that Saban's going to have his crew ready, and that offense is going to play well, I believe, on that carpet and be ready to play. I still think that Georgia's the better football team this season. I think that they've got better players. They're so deep on defense. They got playmakers, it seems, at all level. But I think that this is going to be a classic football game. I know the number's right around 6.5. I would actually play Alabama, but I think that Georgia wins it. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that, every time you got so much emotion, you got these caliber of players on the field, you got this type of coaching on each sideline, you're going to get everybody's best. And when you get Alabama and Georgia's best with these types of players, I think you're going to get in for a really good football game. So I would actually probably take Alabama, with the points, and but I would think that Georgia would win the game in what I expect to be a really classic.
Yeah, Kirby, just don't do anything stupid, fake punts or anything like that. That'll cost your team the game. He is Jordy Culotta. Follow him on Twitter at Culotta Show. And, of course, JordyCulottashow.com is the website where you can find the show daily. Jordy, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Always. always, CG. Thank you, man.
All right, thanks a lot. This is Jordy Culotta, of course, there in Baton Rouge, talking the latest on the Brian Kelly hire. And, man, what a hire it is for LSU, and we'll see if it pays off for him. But certainly they went all in with the dollar amount to get him. That is just about going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk more previewing the SEC championship game as we count down to Alabama and Georgia from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Man, it's going to be a fun game. We'll be breaking it down all week. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen. Check out the Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and Lee Sterling, giving you all the picks you need for this weekend. It is conference championship weekend. Tons of great games happening. We'll discuss more as the week rolls along. I'm Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. Talk to you guys tomorrow.